All right, good evening, everyone. Good evening, good evening, good evening. Welcome to the Power Author Stage. We're going to be getting started in just about 2 minutes or so. And this evening, you are in for a treat. This is the first time this is going down in history where we have two Zarinas on the stage. And every Zarina that I have met has been absolutely fabulous. And this one is the same. So if you're give us a little information about you. Tell us where you're joining us from. All right, we're going to be getting started in just about a minute and a half or so. So I want you to let us know where you're joining us from. We can shout out. And really, the reason I like to know is because in all of our business works that we do at Book Power Publishing, Author Academy, and anything that I'm doing, whether it's here locally or around the world, we are always looking at how are we connecting human beings? How are we connecting to each other on energetic levels, right? And so somebody's in Ghana, oh, someone's in Dubai, oh, someone's here, someone's there. It really allows us to kind of have a bigger reach, right? So I want you all to share out where you're joining us from. We're going to be getting started in just about or so. Share out where you're joining us from. And to eat, you're going to be able to have an amazing Zarinah experience with two Zarinas, Attorney Zarinah Nadir, and then myself. All right, so almost there, you all. Share this out, share this out, share this out. And we're going to be getting started. I hope you all have some questions. How many of you all have been hemmed up? A lot of you all probably have been hemmed up, right? Many times people get hemmed up in, different situations or such. And so this evening, we're going to be talking to Attorney Zarinah Nadir, and she is going to give us some insights on exactly how we can be legally savvy, how we can navigate the legal system, how we can connect and make sure that we are going to be moving through life. You know, you always hear people getting sued for this or something happened and what do I do? All those types of things we're going to be talking about today. So get ready and let's dive on in just a moment or so. We're going to dive in just about 45 seconds. Just about 45 seconds or so. All right, so let's see if we have any comments on where you all are joining us from. Hello. Yay. Okay, Sister Amina from Michigan. Yes. Ashante Miller, Khalifa from Michigan. Yes. And Dr. Anissa Nadir. Awesome. Sister Iola. Yay. Awesome, awesome, awesome. All right, for those of you who are just joining us, I want you to drop into the comments where you're joining us from. We have this evening with us Attorney Zarinah Nadir. This woman is amazing. She is a social justice beast. And you all are going to be able to ask questions, get information about how to be legally savvy, right? How you are legally savvy. So let's get ready to go. And we're going to start just about now. All right, welcome everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Power Author Stage. I am Zarinah Nadir. I am the founder of the Power Author Academy and Book Power Publishing. And we are a publishing house, an author consulting company that helps entrepreneurs, that helps community members, that helps individuals with a message be able to get their messages out of their head, down onto paper, and out there into the world. So our mission is to be able to help people use the power of books to build their individual businesses, make streams of income, also to leave a written legacy and use what they know their God-given talents and experiences and ideas to be able to make an impact in society. So our goal is to help individuals like Attorney Zarinah Nadir, who we're going to be meeting this evening, be able to share the wisdom that they know so that the rest of us can benefit. That is the goal. Each and every one of us has something that when you speak about it, when you talk about those experiences that you have, someone else can hear that and then their life can be a little bit easier, right? And so that's what this whole thing is about. We are here as a part of our Power Author series. These authors that you have been meeting over the past 3, 4, 5 days or so are all a part of the Power Author Academy. Our Power Author Academy, I'm so excited for them. I'm just so excited and stoked for them. But these authors have been really putting in the work. And over the pandemic, they decided that they were going to write their books, right? They were going to write their books. And they got their ideas. We worked on their outlines. We talked about their stories, everything that they wanted to put together. We met and met and met. And then now they're going to be releasing their books this Saturday, September 25th. And we are going to be releasing their books out there into the world, as Attorney Zarinah calls it, a world premiere. And I love that. This is the world premiere of their books. And so we're going to invite you all to join us on September 25th, this Saturday. Buy their books, spread the word, and be able to meet all of the authors, right? So tonight, you're going to meet Attorney Zarinah Nadir, who is the author of Legally Savvy, your guide to avoiding headaches and heartbreaks in love, life, and business. So Zarinah Nadir is an award-winning lawyer and consultant for individuals, artists, businesses, and emerging entrepreneurs. A longtime community organizer from Phoenix, Arizona, Zarinah founded the Legally Savvy movement to disrupt everyday perceptions of lawyers and help people feel more confident, empowered, and less stressed while navigating the legalities of love, life, and business. So let's welcome Attorney Zarinah Nadir to the Power Author stage. Give her a round of applause, everybody. Drop some love into the comments as well for her. All right, so let's jump on into it. Miss Attorney Zarinah, welcome.
Thank you, Miss Zarinah. I love Zarinah Hour.
Zarinah Tane, as you say, right? Zarinah Tane. Yes, I love it. I tell you, every Zarinah that I've met has been fabulous. All of the Zarinahs I know are like great people. So
there's not that many of us, but they're all great.
They're all great. They're all great. So let's talk about this. Okay, we have Legally Savvy. You know, this is a big deal because especially in our community, in the African American community, we have such, strong relationships to legal issues and things that deal with justice and such. And so, first of all, how do you feel about putting your book out on such a heavy subject, being legally savvy?
Well, thank you for having me. And, this is a subject that it shouldn't be so heavy, right? That's one of the reasons. Most of us do have a visceral reaction when we talk about the law. We think that it really has to just do with police encounters, right? And someone going to jail or maybe someone getting sued. But what we don't really understand is that the legalities are in all aspects of life, from having a relationship, from crossing the street, driving a car, going to school, getting married. All of these kinds of things have the law components to them. And so that's why I wanted to write a book. I wanted to destigmatize how we really look at the legal system, because if we're always looking at it as it's for bad things, or it's something that is you're going to get in trouble when you're dealing with it, then we're really not getting the most out of life. And so this is what really encouraged me to be able to write this book, because in practice I saw people coming to me. A couple of things. I saw people coming to me too late because they were thinking things have to be really bad to talk to a lawyer, and they didn't realize that if it's already bad, you missed a couple of steps when you could have talked to a lawyer earlier, and it could have been, it could have stayed good, right? Good
Oh.
things good, right? And then, the other reason that I wrote this is that even when people have access, because most of us, the rest of us who didn't grow up with unfettered access to attorneys, we didn't have, just a carte blanche check to go to a law firm and just kind of ask the kind of question that we have, because the traditional kind of practice of the law is just very cost prohibitive, and it's very exclusive for those who can, right, afford it. And so what I saw was, though, when the rest of us who weren't trained, weren't, didn't grow up and weren't accustomed to utilizing attorneys, even if we had them, we didn't use them. We still waited until it was too late, because our perceptions of what an attorney is, what the legal system means, we just have such a narrow perspective because we weren't taught to utilize attorneys. We weren't taught that these are attorneys are just a profession, a tool, so that we can live a more vibrant life. So those are some of the main reasons that really sparked me to write this, because you're right. Our communities, historically, we just never had the access. And this is a kind of lesson that can be taught. And that's one of the things that I think a lot of us don't realize either. We think that, it's maybe it's a crapshoot in life, so sometimes things are going to work out great, sometimes there aren't, and we think there are secrets to success. And the secret is we use lawyers. The secret is we get help early. And that's what the super wealthy know. This is what they teach their kids. And the benefits of that have trickled down to their kids, to their communities, and to their next generations. We didn't get that knowledge, so the consequences trickle down to us, to our kids, to our families, and our communities. And so my goal is to just blow the lid on that. We need to know that. Blow the lid off. Flip the script. We need to flip the script.
Yeah. So, for those of you who are just joining us, I see some new people have come in. First of all, we're talking to attorney Zarinah Nadir, who is the author of Legally Savvy, right? And so we're talking about this notion of the fact, really, that many people outside of the exclusive communities, historically, we think of lawyers as someone to go to when we have a problem. So when there is a problem, when there is an issue, when we need some representation at that point in some type of court, we typically think of it in court, right? Then that's when we're going. What you're saying, though, is that as we navigate every part of life, we need to utilize the services of lawyers before it actually gets to be a big issue or whatever it is, so that we can just live life a lot easier or so. Okay.
Absolutely.
All right, so I think I got it. Was that correct? Was that right?
You got it. There are two main objectives to Legally Savvy and to being legally savvy. That's one, to be able to utilize lawyers as the tool, right? As an incredible tool to be able to live life more vibrantly, protect what you've built, and just to have a more peaceful, tranquil life. And then two, though, it's to be able to recognize the legalities of life earlier on, because that's the other piece that a lot of us don't know. There was research that was done that said only 1 out of 3 people actually recognize a legal issue as a legal issue. Most of the time we chalk it up to just bad luck. Most of the time we chalk it up to, oh, they just weren't a nice person to me. No, the lack of understanding that these are legal issues has put us in trouble.
Okay, hold on. Hold on. You gotta, sometimes you're slow, so you gotta break it down for me and give me an example of what do you mean something like that, where we think it's not, but it actually is. So give me an example.
I'll give we'll start with relationships. Let's start there. So, when we think about getting married, we think about love. We think about, I want to get married. And then, the groom gets on his knee and he pops the question. And then the next thought, the only other thought that, a lot of times people have is venue, my dress, invitations. But we're not thinking about, oh, wait a second. I'm now moving from a legal status of single to married. How is that impacting my taxes? I have my own business. How is that going to impact that? Or I'm in a business with business partners. Is that going to impact that for them? I have some property from my family that has always been passed down from family to family to family. Should I put something in place to protect that so that Sure, maybe we're going to love each other. Hopefully this all works out. But even still, if I pass away, I want it to revert back to my biological family, rather than maybe going into the in-law side of the family. So there are
Right.
so many things that we just have no clue because we weren't trained that way. And when I say we, I mean the rest of us, those who didn't grow up with unfettered access to attorneys. We're the ones who don't understand that. The super wealthy, oh, they know. They have that conversation. They're like, listen, Johnny, she's cute. I'm glad you like her. Glad you
Yeah.
both met, right? But before you go down that road, I'm going to want you to have a conversation with the family, the law firm and the family attorney in the firm, to make sure that we cross the T's, dot the I's, to make sure that, hopefully everything's going to go well. Hopefully everything's going to go good. But even still, we have some things that we need to stay within the family. We have some things that, right? So these are things that we just have no clue about. And sometimes we say to ourselves, well, I'm broke. What does that matter? Who knows? We don't know how things are going to go later on. We have plenty of scenarios with, just taking some of the Hollywood examples where they're getting married. They had no idea how things are going to end up later. And then the next thing the guy is asking his wife for alimony, and things like that. So, I mean, it's just out, there's legality to every single thing we do. Having a pet, say you have a dog, say you have a cat, right? And say your dog, right, while you're playing with it out at the park, hauls off and goes and bites one of the neighbors. Now what are you gonna do? Right? Back in the day, we might have just had a conversation and they said, my aunt's a nurse, can she just sew you up, right? Maybe we could do that back in the day, but today we just don't operate like that. Why? Because we have more knowledge about, well, there's illnesses, I got to go check this out, I don't know if I have rabies, I don't have this, but I have that. So we have all these I know, actually, I'm
triggering. For those who don't know, my daughter just got bit by a cat, 2 weeks ago now. She still has to go for one more shot. There's 6 shots now that we're on. So yeah, like a lot of these things. And I'll tell you, even within this little situation that happened with me, with my daughter, a lot of people, when I told them that she got bitten, a lot of people were like, are you going to sue them? Are you going to sue them? Like, that was the first thing that came. I hadn't even thought of that at all. But the first thing that came out of a lot of people's mouth was like, are you going to sue them? Are you going to sue them? So you're right. Like, legal things come up on a day-to-day basis. But one of the things I like about the book is that inside of the book, you include, first of all, scenarios and stories where we can actually see how these things have navigated or how these things have played out in other situations. But you also include these like hacks, these legal hacks or whatever. And like in every chapter, there are different legal hacks that we can kind of learn and sink our teeth into. And so I'm wondering, like, how and why did you decide that you wanted to add these hacks in? And can you give us an example of one of the hacks that we can take away and start to implement even from today?
Absolutely. So it's key. So dealing with the legal system has been just, again, as you mentioned, very and historically complicated and elusive, really. Most of us think, I'm never going to be able to understand that. I have no idea what that's going to mean. And so I really wanted a book that's not going to be a book of laws because it's boring. Who wants to read that? Most of us are thinking, if I'm talking about, the legal system, I mean, it's just blah, 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 boring. That's the last thing I want to talk about. So I wanted to make sure that it came to life for us so that we can realize, wow, this is part of life. This is something that I need to keep aware, be aware of, but I can learn it, and it doesn't have to be so dry and so difficult. And so that's where the hacks come in. I wanted to kind of synthesize at the end of every chapter what a legally savvy person, how a legally savvy person would be if they were in those scenarios, and how a legally savvy person thinks. Those are really what the hacks are. How a legally savvy person thinks, how a legally savvy person approaches every situation. And so every chapter is broken down with different hacks. So I'll give you an example. One of the hacks is legal issues do not get better with time. So we want to repeat this to ourselves. The legally savvy person knows, and actually I say, unlike J-Lo, Mario Lopez, right? and legal issues don't get better with time. And
Uh,
so this completely flips the script on how we personally thought about legal issues. I hear it all the time. People even have me in their network. I'm their close friend. I have access to, giving them access to attorneys, and they would say, "I'm going to wait on that.
I've
I'm not going to handle it. I don't
I've done.
know. I'm wait, right? Yeah, I'm gonna wait until it's worse. Like I'm gonna wait and see. I'm gonna wait, and this is the mentality of the rest of us. Those of us who didn't grow up with the access. Those of us who didn't understand that attorneys, we're not magicians. That's the one thing. Attorneys aren't magicians, so we can't magically wave a wand and get you out of situations. We so much prefer to keep you out of situations. One, because it's cheaper for you, it's less stress for you, and you have a lot more options that are available to you if you can handle things sooner rather than later. There are statutes of limitations. It can be too late when you're talking about legal situations. So realizing that legal issues do not get better with time. You don't just wait it out. Wait and see is not a good approach when dealing with legal matters. We want to really make sure that we are taking care of things sooner rather than later, because that's just going to save you so much stress, so much heartache. There's a ton more hacks, but
I want to this one out, because this was one that I keep going back to the justice. I know I keep going back there, and this book is way more than just dealing with the justice system. But I think just because of everything that is going on in so many places, I just keep going back there. So I want to share a couple of these, right? So in this particular chapter, you were talking about the police and their responsibilities and things that they are there for and things that they're not there for, or whatever. And so one of the things you said was that the legally savvy know that being disrespectful does not mean waiving your rights, that asserting your rights is not rude, to learn the magic words and use them. So you're listing down all of these things about how we should actually talk to attorney, or how we should talk and engage with the police and things. And so I want to pull this out for a moment. So like kind of walk us through some of this, like when we're dealing with the police, they stop us, we have these ideas of what that is supposed to look like, and the lawyers often have better ideas of what that is supposed to look like. Can you talk to us a little bit about this?
Absolutely, because this is so key. Most of us don't have a lot of experience with police, contrary to maybe how we see it in the media. We think every day, no, most of us actually rarely have connections and interactions with police. When we do see interactions, oftentimes we see it on the news, and it's the drastic case. It's one of the worst case scenarios, right? Let me put it that way. It's one of the worst case scenarios. It's when it really went wrong. And so what we really don't have an understanding of is even balanced policing. We don't understand, we don't really have we don't know the difference between overreaching and then just typical policing. We just haven't had experience with that. But in my practice as a defense attorney, I've come to really kind of see and understand that there's plenty of situations where the client themselves made it hard for them. I've listened to interview tapes. So for example, we all hear this, right? You have the right to remain silent, right? But most of us don't.
Oh, we just be talking.
Most of us just be talking. Exactly. Yeah. And I've even heard police interviews where they were speaking with someone that they arrested, and they specifically said to them, "You have the right to remain silent. Would you like to have an attorney? You have the right to," and they said it a couple of times. And that person just started talking. They just started talking. I have an example in the book of, when someone's being pulled over, perhaps for, suspected DUI. And then, the police ask them questions like, "Oh, did you have beer?" And they're like, "No, wine." And it's like, you don't say it. You're talking too much.
But I thought if you give them the information that,
gonna
they'll
go
see
away.
that you're telling the truth, and then you can just go, whatever like that.
Yeah, that's what the rest of us think. So that's not what the legally savvy know, right? The legally savvy know their rights. They know how to be respectful and be respectable, because we always have to be respectful in those circumstances. We don't want to be aggressors or anything like that. And then we also need to know that it's not rude to assert our rights. And one of the rights is, if you are under arrest, one, you're going to hear the police say, you have the right, you're under arrest. and you have the right to remain silent. So now your Miranda rights are read. You have the right to remain silent. And then they also say anything you say can and will be used against you in the court of law, right? I think we all can recite that. So when we understand that, yeah, exactly. That's law and order, right? So when we hear that, we should obey it. And what we should actually do is, this is what most people don't actually even understand. When you want to remain silent, it's not good enough to just not talk.
Okay.
You have to use the magic words. I am invoking my right to remain silent. And then here's the kicker. Here's the kicker. Stay silent. Don't start talking. You have to give them, just your name, your driver's license, that kind of thing. But other than that, stay silent. And if you've invoked
okay, let me pause for a second. Let's catch this. Let's catch it. So, first of all, what you said is that the things that we think about how things go down when you're engaging with the law enforcement, right? And so a lot of us, like I said, like we think, you just talk, you share or whatever. And so they see that you're being truthful or whatever, and then they let you go. And what you're saying is that many times people incriminate themselves because they do not know their rights, or even if they do think they know their rights, they don't invoke their rights. So what you're saying, you pulled out one as far as the right to remain silent. They clearly say that when you're getting arrested. Now you have the right. But what about, Zarinah? Let me pull this out let me jump. Because what if they haven't arrested us? They're just, coming and they're asking me, like, do you have anything in your car? Can I search your car? You don't have anything to hide. Have you been doing this? What if I haven't even been arrested, but they're engaging me, and I'm just talking at that point? Like, what about that?
I'm so glad you brought that up, because there is a distinction between being arrested and not being arrested. First off, and let me be just extremely clear, it's very important to realize that you want to survive the stop, right? So I don't want to be insensitive to that. I understand that there are some of our communities who have very serious history with law enforcement, and so there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of anxiety that pertains to even just seeing those lights go off, behind you.
And then, when I see them lights on that freeway, I get flipped out. So
and I do too. And I'm an attorney, and I do too. Right, I wrote the book Legally Savvy, and I do too, because we can't deny that history. However, what I want to say is, or in addition to that, we do still need to understand what normal policing is, what our rights are, and then how to be legally savvy about it. So say, for example, now we're talking about a traffic stop, right? Because there's different scenarios. Say a police comes to your door, that's something else. Or say you meet, say you're dealing with law enforcement at a border check or at the airport, right? There are different circumstances. But let's take a traffic stop. So during a traffic stop, you're pulled over for, whatever reason, and the police have their own reasons. They may have received some information about your vehicle that there was maybe some identity theft, and now they're running plates and they're seeing that it's connected to something more heinous. And you're thinking, I wasn't speeding. Why are they pulling me over? And sometimes we get really edgy, agitated, obstinate even. We want to stay calm. It's their responsibility to de-escalate, but we can take personal responsibility and to stay calm as well. You're not arrested until you hear you are arrested, right? So in those circumstances, if they're asking you for your driver's license, your insurance, those kinds of things, absolutely, hand that over. Be respectful, right? And the normal officers who are just doing their, day-to-day job and trying to do their best out there. And I've been pulled over, and it's been very pleasant experiences also. So nobody wants to be pulled over. So when I say pleasant, I put in quotes, but you know what I mean. You comply in that regard. But if there's a moment where they're like, oh, can I pop the trunk? I just, want to take a look. At that moment, you want to realize that you have a right to not be searched without a warrant. And so when those circumstances come up, we need to practice this and simply just say, no, thank you. No, thank you, officer. And unless I'm able to speak with my attorney and they give me the go ahead, otherwise I'll decline that search. Thank you.
And let's practice it now. Hold on. I'm about to get this in my head. Go
We
ahead, say it
do.
again. So, what exactly do I say? These are magic words. Now, let me tell you all. Zarinah has other magic words in the book in Legally Savvy. So, this is one of my favorite parts about the book. But these are like magic words, things that you can actually say. Now, I should give a disclaimer, however, right now, that the book, as well as this broadcast right now, is not in lieu of you speaking to your own attorney. So if you have a specific issue or something that comes up, right, or you want to prevent some type of issue, then you need to engage an attorney. So don't take and say, well, Zarinah said, like no, like this is not in lieu of any of that. We're giving you things, and definitely you want to always engage your own attorney. So let's just practice these, magic words so that we know are things that we should kind of have centered inside of us. So give it to me again, and I'm going to repeat it. And everybody else who's live, say it as well to yourself.
I love it. Okay, so the officer turns around. They don't have a warrant. Your trunk is closed. You're not in a truck, and it's just wide open. And they say, "Hey, how about let me search your trunk?" No, thank you, officer.
No, thank you, officer.
If my attorney says that it's okay to check, then I'll be happy to.
Okay. And if my attorney says this okay to check, then I'll be happy to. But what if I ain't got no attorney right then? Like, what if I don't I don't really have an attorney in my back pocket yet at this moment? That I do because you hooked me up. But what about those who don't have an attorney yet in their back pocket?
I'm going to be plain and simple. Hook it up, get it. There's programs out there now. The world that we live in, we need to be lawyered up. And when I say lawyered up, again, I know that most people are putting, oh my God, Zarinah's so aggressive. Zarinah wants people to be just, why can't we just shake hands and just agree with everything? Well, that's not the world we live in. And I'm not a proponent to say that everyone's out to get you or anything like that. I actually have a very positive viewpoint of the world, glass half full kind of view, but we have to be realistic and understand that there are aspects, these are called laws, that we're responsible for. So if we don't know what we're responsible for, we can be subjected to it. We could be violating it, and we don't even know. So this is not only just our rights, but it's also our responsibilities. And so, I definitely advocate for us all. There are programs out there where it's not expensive. You can pay a monthly fee and you can have attorneys literally on your phone, and they have 24/7 emergency access. I know of one program, it's in the book, right? That even has the 24/7 emergency access. Why is that key? Because these scenarios jump up and you have to be prepared. You don't want to be scared. You have to be prepared. We have to, if we're driving a car, if we're going, we have to expect that something like this can happen. It's naive if we're not thinking about that. If we're just thinking, life is so good and nothing's going to happen. There are plenty of times where there have been speed traps. There have been plenty of times when there have been malfunctioning, right? The odometer guns and all that stuff. So you have to just be prepared. And with the tools, 50 years ago, we didn't have those kind of tools available.
Right.
We have it now. So now it's a good idea to be prepared. And if you don't have a lawyer yet, you can still say it.
Yeah, that's true. I'm about to get a lawyer. So
and then go get it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then go get it. But practicing it, back in the civil rights days, they practiced.
That's so true.
Right? They came together in the basements of the church and they said, we're getting ready to go demonstrate. We're getting ready to go fight for some rights. We need to practice. What if they say this to you? What if the officer says this to you? What if a person says this to you? How are you going to handle it? How are you going to stay calm? So I advocate this, amongst sister groups, practice. Have a legally savvy session. I probably should have one where we practice these kinds of things. Because when we learn some of us learn self-defense tactics, we learn how to carry mace, we learn how to do some karate, right? But we also need to learn some magic words, some legal magic words. We need to learn how to use lawyers, right? So these are self-defense tactics also, and they are also just quality of life tactics. I mean, you just live a better life when you know you can say, let me talk to my lawyer about it. It's just a better feeling. And like I said, 50 years ago, we didn't have those kind of resources available for the rest of us. But I'm glad to say today, and happy to see that these resources exist.
This is a big deal. This is a really big deal. Even though you think about a lot of people who may not have as many, who may not have had as many things happen yet, but what you're talking about is the fact that when you know how to utilize the services of lawyers, when you are lawyered up, it is not only for the bad times, it actually helps makes your life smoother in general. Just point blank, it helps your life be. And for those of us, like you said, like the rest of us who have never had that before, you know how sometimes you can be in pain and you've become just so accustomed to the pain, it feels like it's your default. Like you're just in that's just your baseline. You don't even know what it feels like to be at ease because you've always had this sort of anxiety and stress. It's just been a natural part of you until someone like Attorney Zarinah Nadir comes and says, oh my God, like, dude, like you got a thumbtack in your foot, dude. Like, did you not know that? Like, you're like, oh my God, that's why my foot has been numb this whole time. And then you take it out and you repair that and you're like, wow, I actually feel a lot better. This is how I kind of feel like with what you're sharing with us, because it's stuff that you don't even now, Attorney Zarinah, like you have hooked me up, for years now with ways that I can engage attorneys. Do you know I still don't utilize them all the time, and every time that I should, I'm still having to like remind myself, check with your attorney, Z, check with your attorney, like check with your attorney. And I talk to you, like, so this is the real stuff that I think it may take us some time to really sink it in, like get it really synced in to our minds. So I'm wondering for you, like you live your life already like this. You have people that you said, some of your friends still don't really utilize the services and such. But with this movement that you're kicking off, this legally savvy movement to help people, of course, get lawyered up and then know more about the system, like what do you think may come out of that? I know we're in the infancy of it, but what do you hope to really happen with this legally savvy movement?
I love that question. What I hope is that we will have a system in a world in a better place where all of us just feel a lot more vibrant. All of us just feel a lot more, equal. Really, I envision a day where we are engaging in contracts. Maybe we're getting a property from someone, right? And today, or prior to kind of the legally savvy movement, we would get a contract for a home, and they the other side would tell us it's standard, and we'd look at it and say, okay, they said it's standard. We just take their word for it. And then some of us are smart and we try to read it a little bit, and then we like, Lord, this is 30 pages. I'm just gonna sign it. I want the house. Right. So the goal is post legally savvy world, we'll have confidence to say, thank you. Can I get this back to you in a few days? I'm going to go ahead and let my attorney review it. I know your attorney wrote it. And they'll say, you know what they'll probably say? They'll actually say, I'm sure you'll want your attorney to review this before you sign it. Why don't you go ahead, take a few days? They do this in the super wealthy world. They know they're not signing anything. Standard. So but in our world, they bank, there's some places that are, completely on the up and up, what have you, but you don't know, we can't really see the difference, right? And so I see that the rest of the society are going to have that super wealthy treatment. I'm sure you're going to want to have your attorney review this. I actually know of a gentleman who was leaving a job, and it was a great company, but they were downsizing that particular department, and so he was receiving a severance package. And the HR, because they're, like I said, a very good company, very strong company, they said, you may want to have your attorney review it before you sign your severance package. So look at that, right? No sense of, go ahead and sign it right now. You got 2 seconds. you know, right?
Right,
Or they're
right,
just sitting there and like, it's standard. Don't worry about it. Just go ahead,
right,
you know, X that, X that. No, they said, I'm sure you're going to want to have a few days. So go ahead. You got a week, you know, or 2 weeks. Get that back to us. Let them look over it, make sure, because they know you're, when you're signing even severance packages. So now we're talking about leaving a job. How normal is that, right? How
right,
not, you know, necessarily, you know, horrible that is. Could be for some people, but for some, it's like, okay, I'm getting a severance package. But they know when you sign this, you're agreeing to receive certain benefits and you're also locking yourself out from receiving others. So
right,
this is advice that we need. And that's why, you know, I would never advocate for a world where we don't have lawyers. Sometimes people think because of our poor interaction with attorneys, oh, let's just try to do everything ourselves. Let's do all the research. You can't ever do all the research. That's why there's law school. You can't ever do all the research. Law
right.
continues to evolve. We have to just know how to utilize this tool. And when we know how to know that thumbtack is in there faster. I love that analogy that you gave. When we can recognize this is a legal thumbtack, we can
Mm-hmm.
address things at the legal cough level before it turns into legal pneumonia.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I love that. Yeah. This is some really good stuff, you all. So if anyone has any questions for Attorney Zarinah Nadir, author of Legally Savvy, please drop those into the chat box. And for those of you who are going to be joining the Legally Savvy movement, of course, this Saturday is going to be our graduation. It's our world release. It's the premiere day of Legally Savvy, as well as 7 other books by 8 authors total. And this Saturday, you'll be able to get more information on how you can join the Legally Savvy movement. You'll be able to see Attorney Zarinah Nadir as well on Saturday. And so we want you all to not just listen to her, not just say, oh, you know, that sounds really interesting, but we want you to actually take action. Because you can hear all of these things, but if you don't actually go and buy the book on Saturday, learn the magic words, right? If you don't follow up with her, join her groups or whatever it is that she's going to be doing with the Legally Savvy movement, right? You need support. So I'm telling you that these types of things, when you're engaging and you're learning new skills and new ways of being, you have to practice, as she just told us, right? We have to do it over and over and over again until it becomes second nature, So Zarinah, with this, you know, Legally Savvy movement and the book and everything that's coming out, you know, I have found that a lot of people have been sort of, I guess, requesting assistance in this way. And it also seems that a lot of people have been thinking about the law in these different areas, because you talk about it in love, you talk about it in business, you talk about, you know, headaches as well as heartbreaks and things. And so it seems like there's a lot of different areas. Are there any times, I'm wondering, where there are times where we just should not worry about this at all? Like, are there any moments where we may start to feel like we're doing too much?
I love that question. You know, I felt that way before. I've been there.
Mm,
I actually had a scenario where I was working with a community organization. Great, highly reputable, you know, very, very beloved organization. And we were engaging in a contract to do some programming.
mhm,
And I even had a moment where I said, and there was a contract, they sent a
mhm,
contract over, and I had a moment where I said, it's probably fine. But I'm so glad, and this is why it's important to kind of do the legally savvy movement with your family members, because you could be a lone wolf. You could, you know, especially again, like I said,
mhm.
if we weren't, if you weren't raised, indoctrinated with this from the time you were
Mhm.
born, I'm talking the Rockefeller kind of world, right? The rest of
Right,
us,
right.
we don't, we're learning, we're new to this game, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's why you're going to see celebrities still. We might be saying like, how is Aretha Franklin not going to have a will? Like,
I know, it's the
she,
strangest things.
so she didn't grow up with that, right? Like, so it's so that's going to happen where we have those moments where we say, you know, is this too much? Am I excessive? And the super wealthy wouldn't be saying that. They're like, no, of course we need to do this. But even, you know, so no, it's not going to be too excessive, you know. And I guess you just have to ask yourself, how much would a bad decision cost me? I mean, it's
Mm.
really up to you to make that decision,
Ooh.
right? You know, so I'm not going to tell you. my book is, encouraging you to consistently flex your legal muscle, practice
Yeah.
consistently, so that on the little things, so that when there are bigger things, one, we can start to recognize that legal thumbtack. I love that analogy. We can start recognizing when it's a legal cough, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that we don't let it get to pneumonia, because that's
Mm-hmm.
what happens, right? In the world, if you don't have health insurance, you didn't grow up with it, you didn't have it, folks end up in the hospital and they're like stage 4
Yeah.
cancer. It's like, because
Yeah.
you weren't in tune, you didn't know to get the checkups, you didn't have the
Yeah.
access, right? So
Mm-hmm.
this is the same kind of thing with legal matters. We have to begin to start flexing our legal muscle, practicing on these little things. So even when we were writing our book, we had terms and agreements to check and agree to publish our books. I
Mm-hmm.
copied all of that and sent it to my attorney to review.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I'm in Arizona, but one of the companies that we're working with is in Washington.
Mm-hmm.
So I was able to speak with the Washington attorney, and they were able to tell me what parts were standard, right? And I think we need to be aware, the word standard doesn't mean it's good for you.
Right. It doesn't mean it's good for you. It just means
Right? Like
that's
it's
their company
yeah,
standard form.
exactly. It just means it's their company standard form.
Mm-hmm.
So these are things that we're gonna want to practice and want to do. Is it ever going to be too much? I'll tell you that example with that community organization. We ended up sending that contract in. Actually, I was doing it with my mom, and she said, "Yeah, let's just send it in." I'm so glad we did. We had to revise so much of it. They said, they didn't indicate how you're getting compensated. That wasn't even said. So this is what a lot of times we just think go to court, but court is last resort, right? That's
Yeah.
the last. You want to put things in place so that neither of you ever have to go there. You're able to solve and resolve issues early, right? And before it becomes so
So how did you feel, like there's like an emotional side that comes into sometimes with dealing with the law, right? Because we start to feel like, oh, if I tell them I'm going to send it to my lawyer, they think that I don't trust them, or they think that, like I feel like they don't have my best interest at heart. And so you kind of feel this feeling of guilt sometime, or feeling of like, of shame, or putting blame or whatever. Like, how do you deal with the emotional side of, I guess, maybe being strong enough? I don't know if it's a confidence thing or if it's some other way that we should look at it, like being okay with slowing down and not feeling like we're hurting somebody else's feelings because we tell them we want to send it to our lawyer.
and love that question. So knowledge is power. That's why I wrote the book, because most of us just don't even know. So that's why we don't
Mm-hmm.
assert. That's why we don't have the conversation. And that's why it's awkward. When we get some knowledge, when we learn, and I recommend the book says, like, read it and then read it again before you have another, any kind of, keep reading it, keep going through this information, because we are so unaccustomed to it. It feels foreign. It feels weird
Yeah.
because we're not used to it, nor do we know. That's why a lot of us don't assert our rights, because we're asserting from conjecture. We're like, I don't think it
Mm-hmm.
feels right, but the law is not always logical. And so it's important to realize, okay, how do I really handle this situation? And when we start to just flex our muscle more, we're going to feel more confident about it. I guess I would say lean into those feelings of discomfort. Everything new is uncomfortable,
Mm-hmm.
but reflect on how this is going to impact you, your next generation as well. Because when one person in the family is legally savvy, hopefully there'll be a trickle effect. Right?
Yeah.
Hopefully there'll be like a ripple effect, that pebble where, somebody in the family is going to say, hey, Ma, slow down. Before we get that car, let's get the
Mm-hmm.
contract review just to make sure, before we sign the dotted line on that house. These are big
Mm-hmm.
investments that we're making. And for the
Mm-hmm.
rest of us, we might say it's just a car, but for the rest of us, that's usually the biggest purchase we're making. It's like,
Yeah.
30, 20, 30, $40,000. We're
Mm-hmm.
buying a home. That's the biggest investment we're making. Some of us are getting homes for literally 200, 3, 4, 5, 6, $700,000, and we didn't have an attorney review it.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to continue to practice it. We need to realize, and I think the book will help with some of that mantra. Okay, the super wealthy would do this. This is why they're wealthy. I want to maintain this wealth. I want to maintain this these opportunities. And listen, even
Mhm.
if you're broke, don't, all I have is my business and my Michael Jackson collection. Like I'm not, I don't have, kids yet, and all of this kind of stuff. So mind
Mhm.
you, I'm also like, what's the deal? Who am I really impacting? But the
Mhm.
more in our community, the more members of our community who aren't flexing our legal muscle, the more we keep a target on our whole community's back. There are companies that
Mhm.
do bank on us not knowing because they've seen the patterns. Like, I know how much these people make. I know these people don't check. I know these people, right?
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
when we can start flexing it, that's going to, start to have those people who overreach, have them to start stepping back a bit. Maybe I
Yeah.
have to step more lightly, because I know of another officer who said, back to kind of the social justice, dealing with the police side of things.
Mhm.
He was in corrections and he said, when we knew that an inmate had a lawyer, we all walked lightly.
Mm.
So again, not to be aggressive, not to be, a narcissistic, obstinate jerk, right? That's not what this is about.
Mhm.
But what this
Mhm.
is about is, if you don't care about yourself, care about your kids too, or care about the
Your
community,
community.
right? We,
Yeah.
we need
Yeah.
more people to just realize that, hey, you can't take advantage of these people, so
Mhm.
your contracts better come correct, because they're going to
Mhm.
review them. Your
I love this.
right?
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. So, for those of you who are here, one of your takeaways needs to be, of course, just to reset or re-educate ourselves around being lawyered up, around the legal justice system, around how to engage and navigate through life with having that access, right? And so Zarinah's book, Attorney Zarinah Nadir, Legally Savvy, Your Guide to Avoiding Headaches and Heartbreaks in Love, Life, and Business, this is the key, right? She breaks it down in very, very, very simple, plain language so that people like me can understand what it is that she's actually talking about. And then our job, as she said, is to read it and then implement, right? Read it again, implement. And this is going to actually take time for us to be able to get it, but you can't really do it alone. So join the Legally Savvy movie and movement, and all of you all movie. Ooh, I said that. That means it's coming. So we're gonna join this Legally Savvy movement, right? And we're going to, get attached to Attorney Zarinah Nadir. We're going to read the book. We're going to start putting these words and things into our daily practice so that when we go out, we know how to navigate and we can make things a lot easier. It is really incumbent upon all of us. At this point in our life, like, you can't be complaining, just talking about, oh, they do this and they do that. And they always, like, you need to man up, woman up, like, get the skills that we need in order to improve our life and in our society life. There is no more just being punks and waiting around for somebody else to do things. It's now our time, you and I, our time to actually get the knowledge and the skills that we learn. And so I'm so thankful that Attorney Zarinah Nadir has taken the time and the effort to take what she knows, right? Because she could go on living her little married life. She could be living her life, doing the things, like she got all her clients and, doing all of those things and be fine. But what she saw was something out in society that the rest of us actually needed this information. And so she took the time and the effort, and I'm happy that God inspired her to do so. But she got the inspiration and then she actually took the action to put it down into words so that the rest of us, will be able to benefit from this. So let's see if there are any questions. Any questions that you all have for Attorney Zarinah Nadir? Now, you all know, I paid, some lawyers, hundreds of dollars an hour just to be able to sit and talk and ask them a question. So you all have the ability right now to ask an attorney a question. Maybe it might be a personal question, I don't know, or it might be a general scenario as well that you can ask. Let's
While we're
see.
working on that, may I add,
Yes.
and I appreciate what you said, because I'm grateful that I have the privilege to be able to write this book, because I know there are so many advocates out there who maybe would love to, but just, not everyone has the chance, right? And so I really appreciate your academy, really, for
Mhm.
coming at just the right place and the right time. But in our communities, really out of the US alone, there's only 0.4% of the US population that are even attorneys. And when
Point
you look
four, less than
0.4%,
1%.
right? Exactly.
Okay.
So when you look at who we're even going to be able to hear this from, who's going to be from our community to tell us, out of the lawyers that are there, only 5% are African American. Only
Okay.
5% are Latino or Latinx. Only there's even fewer indigenous American attorneys,
Mhm.
right? And Asian attorneys. So what that means is we don't have these messages in our community.
Mhm.
And I'm so grateful that it's this my information is in a book form, because it can go to neighborhoods and communities that I may not personally be able to go to. I won't be able to. And it can get there, it can go further, because having that access, this is another reason why there's just so much inequity. The majority of attorneys that are out there are white men.
Mhm.
So we're just not even going to have them in our networks. They're not in our frat. They're not in our at our mosque. They're not in our church. They're not in our, right. Well, some of us have one or two, you know what I mean? I'm not saying none, but I'm
Mhm.
saying that we don't have this kind of access even
Mhm.
to the people who can break it down.
Mhm.
And kind of use examples that we are familiar with, speak to some of the issues that the rest of us really kind of confront and deal with. And
Mhm.
so this is a responsibility from me. This is
Yeah.
how I see it, for us to be able to. I know our communities don't have this kind of access. Somebody has to give it to us, or else
Step up.
how do we
Yeah.
judge them? How do we say, why are you still talking to police? Why are you still signing these contracts? They don't know. They don't have the access. They don't have the information. But now
Breaking
they do.
breaking the curse. Right. Now they do, because you can get it started with Legally Savvy. So here is Brother Khalil. What's a common mistake you see people make during traffic stops that complicates their interaction with police or incriminates them?
That's an incredible question. Coming back to just the horrors that we've seen on television, and these real people's lives being taken on the streets. And then sometimes we even have seen circumstances where they perhaps weren't murdered, but there was still a lot of agitation, and they were being beat up, and things like this. Sadly, something that I never hear from the footage is a magic words. I would like to speak with my attorney.
Hmm.
So when something starts going in the next direction, we need to say those magic words. Most of us think that we can ask for our friend. Can I call my husband? There was a circumstance where there was a young lady who was undocumented, and she was pulled over by the police. She actually had a tail light out, and she had been nagging her husband to fix it so that she wouldn't have those problems. They were working on her citizenship. Her husband's a citizen, she wasn't, and they were working on that. So in the meantime, she's doing life, right? Trying to get by. They got kids, all that kind of stuff. When the police pulled her over, she said, he said, license and registration. She came clean. I don't have it. I'm undocumented. She was 100% honest about that. And then she was saying, well, she started getting nervous. Can I call my husband? She said, the officer said, no, you can't. Why? Why would the officer say no? Why wouldn't he just be kind about that? Well, that's not the law. That's not the law. The law doesn't say you have the right to call your husband. You have the right to call your mom. You have the right to call your. So we don't know this. We only have the right to call our attorney. If we don't have our attorney, then we're in definite trouble. That's why we all need to have that access. But we can say, I would like to speak with my attorney. The tone changed, she said. She said he was looking at me like I was Selma Hayek. And what ended
So
up
she
happening,
did say that. She said
she said,
that.
because she had the coverage. I was able to hook her up like literally a week before. And this is the thing, you never know
Wow.
when this thing is going to happen.
Mhm.
So the officer went back to his car, ran some things, and just from her saying, I'd like to speak with my attorney, she was able to call the attorney right there on the side of the road. The attorney said one of two things are going to happen. One, you can be arrested. And if that's the case, call me as soon as you get to where you are. Or two, you can get a moving citation. And then if that's the case, just call me in the morning and we'll strategize your defense. The officer came back and gave her a moving violation. And in the morning, she was able to call the attorney, and she called me and she said, Zarinah, you got me back home to my kids. So it's huge. I mean, I was just like, oh my God, this is why I do what I do. This is why I try to get this information to people to say, we want to get this before there's a problem, because if there's a problem, we're not prepared. You wouldn't have been able to make that phone call to your attorney right there on the side of the road. So that's a big common mistake where we think, one, we start talking too much. We just go doing too much. Say your name, if it's, asking about your speeding. No, I'm sorry. I do not know how fast I was going. Keep it there. Be respectful, right? But just keep it there. And then if it does seem to escalate, we're asking for the wrong people. We're not asking and using the magic words. I like to speak with my attorney.
And so there's a whole chapter in the book about these type of things, these scenarios, words to say, all of these things that are really critical. And I was I don't know if I told you this or not, but I was thinking, I was thinking about these pockets of places where we're going to have these legally savvy discussions and things. And I hope that you guys actually set up your book, your book clubs and your groups that you all have. Like, you need to make this a book that you all read together. You need to make this one of the books that you have on your roster or whatever. You read this book and you guys literally discuss it, because this stuff is serious. And a lot of times people are talking from uneducated perspectives and opinions versus actual real law. So you need to listen to an attorney Zarinah Nadir, and be able to take this and then move on and go from there. So, all right. Now, Zarinah, I just want to thank you for joining us this evening. It has been a very enlightening conversation for me. And I tell you, I learned something from every single client. I learned something from every single author. All of you all have enriched my life in so many ways. And you definitely have enriched my life, not only with your conversation around, lawyering up and all of the different words and things that we learned, but also just your, I would say, tenacity at going for what it is that you want. Your straightforwardness and speaking and the way that you engage the world with your communication style. It is definitely beautiful to see. And we are praying for you and all of your many things that you're going to be doing and ascending as you continue to go through life. And I just want to thank you for being a part of my life, and thank you for being a part of the Academy and sharing with us this evening. So I'm going to give you a moment to say some final words in a second, but I want everyone to know you can grab her book on Saturday. Now, why people keep asking, like, why don't get it today? Why you don't get it tomorrow? We want you to buy this book on Saturday. And we want you to buy it on Saturday because we are utilizing a unknown hack, if you will, in the publishing world, so that we as indie publishers and people without having the budgets of Barack Obama and Oprah and such and Steve Harvey budgets, we can actually make a splash and make our books bestseller. So we want to be able to use our force as a community, right? As individuals, we the people, as she opens her book for, we the people. We want to be able to utilize that and have everyone purchase on the day, on September 25th. As many people that purchase on that day, we can push the books higher in the ranking. We don't want them down here. We want to push them higher and higher and higher and higher. And so for that to happen, we need to all purchase them on September 25th. The magic hour, as Zarinah said, is 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Convert it to your time, right? 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's New York time. Convert it to your own time. So we're going to be live just like we are now. But I'm going to have all of the authors on that day on September 25th. That's Saturday now. September 25th is this Saturday. So this Saturday, we're going to have all of our authors. You're going to be able to buy all of the books. And if you want, you can actually get the ebook, the Kindle version of this for just 99 cents. So it's going to be no excuse for anybody to not get legally savvy. Every one of you, I don't care how much money you have, you will be able to get legally savvy because you can get the actual ebook for just 99 cents on Saturday. Like, she has made this a no-brainer, easy access for everyone. Okay, so everyone should be able to get this. All right, so Saturday, you're going to go and get this book. And for those of you who have not officially registered yet, I want you all to go to powerauthoracademy.com/graduation. So powerauthoracademy.com/graduation. And there you'll be able to RSVP. And when you RSVP, you'll be able to win some goodies. So some of our authors have included some special things into drawings. I have some things that I'm going to be giving away in our drawings as well. And so you'll be able to win prizes just for showing up to the world premiere, the graduation on Saturday. All right. So Attorney Zarinah Nadir, any final words for the people here this evening?
Oh, well, I just want to say thank you so much. Being legally savvy is a muscle. And I think that it's a skill set that we all deserve to learn. Just like math, reading, this is a skill set that we all should learn, and we deserve it. We've been price locked out of being able to get this kind of access for far too long, and the game really needs to change on that. And this book is opening the lid on that. So I thank you, Zarinah, for being a great friend to me. You've been just absolutely amazing. I do not think I would have finished this book. Pretty darn sure I wouldn't have in this time frame if I didn't have you, your support, and the support of the other sisters in the cohort, who are some incredibly dynamic ladies. I can't wait to get their books as well. So thank you so much for all that you do for us. You're absolutely a godsend. So God bless you. And you're a golden one, Miss Zarinah. Just love you.
Of gold. For those that don't know, Zarinah means of gold. So golden of gold. Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it. Awesome.
So thank you.
All right. So everyone, have a wonderful evening. Please share this out as well. Share this live broadcast out on your pages so that more people can learn about the Legally Savvy movement and get some of the magic words and such. And of course, we'll see you on Saturday at our world premiere, our graduation, our bestseller day, this Saturday, the 25th. All right, you all have a great evening. Peace, everyone.